Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you all how to animate for X-Plane for say aircraft development. Today I'm just going to be reanimating one of my levers in the CH2000 that released about I think 2 months ago now. So this is the carb heat lever we're looking at. It's just on the instrument panel here. It's going to be a basic in and out animation, and yeah, we're gonna get started with that here. So for this lever, we're gonna have a manipulator that's gonna be, I believe, drag axis. I'm not actually 100% sure. Let me look. Yeah, drag axis picks. And what you're gonna need for to animate in an X-plane is a thing called X-Plane to Blender, which you can find on GitHub. It's frequently updated, and you have all you need to animate and set data refs and whatnot for the sim. So first things first, we're going to want to make an empty. Let me just clear everything I've got here. So this is our empty. You can do that by hitting Shift A, empty, and hit plane axis. You can see we have a big empty here. I'm just going to delete that because we don't want that. I already have one here. And if we're just doing a push-pull, it's okay to have it set anywhere really. I could even have it down here and still move it back and forth. It would still work. But if you're doing something like a switch, or actually I guess not a switch, if we're doing like a yoke, something that's going to move all over the place, we want it to be centered with our object. So once your empty is set in place, we're gonna parent our lever parts to our empty by selecting our part and then shift clicking the empty, Control P, and hit object. You can hit keep transformation as well, doesn't matter. We'll shift click this guy onto there as well. So now whatever we do with this empty, everything's going to follow it. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go to keyframe 0 on our timeline. We're going to hit I, and we're going to hit location. Now we can see that location is the only one being used up here in terms of our animation. We can go to the next keyframe, which is going to be 1, and we can push this in as far as we want. So probably right about here. Hit I again, and then hit location. That's going to lock that keyframe in as well for that, for where the lever is located. So that's our push and pull animation. We can drag it out farther if we want to see a smoother kind of animation there. One thing to note is you always want to have linear animations. I was unaware of this at first when doing animations, but now I have adapted this months ago. So if we just come down here in our timeline and hit A, it'll select, here, I'll unselect, if we hit A, it'll select our keyframes in yellow. Then we hit T on our timeline, hit T, and hit linear. Now we just have a straight same speed all the way through our animation. I'm just going to jump that back to 1 just to make it easier on my eyes. Okay, so there we go. That's our animation there. Keep in mind that this is the carb heat. Same applies actually to our throttle. You can see our throttle animation is the same with mixture. Anything that's push-pull, you're going to want to do the same method. So now that that's done, we're gonna come over here in our what is this even called? Object properties. You're gonna pull up your X-plane menu if you have X-plane to Blender installed, which you're gonna need. Data ref path. This is the data ref that the animation is going to be recognized by. So if we just come in here, we can even search for our data refs. So if we say carb heat, actually hold on, let me bring up something else. I'll put a link in the description for another. Actually, I might be able to just do it right now. Let me just see. There's a website where you can see all the animation or all the data refs for X-Plane. Let's see. Perfect. Here we go. Okay, so this is called Sim Innovations. You can see all the data refs in X-Plane at the moment for X-Plane 1150. We can see here. It was updated on May 13th, so it has everything, every data ref in the sim. So if I just search carb, we see we have two options for carb heat. We're going to want this one here, cockpit to engine actuators, because it's an actuator, carb heat ratio. We can see that it's a float and that we're going to need an index here. Indexes are basically just however many of these carb heat ratio or of these carb heats you could make, or how many data refs you can use. So we have 8 carb heat handle position. So 0 is going to be 0 carb heat, and 1 is going to be full carb heat. Those are our values, 0 and 1. That's pretty much standard for any push pull. So let's just get rid of this. And so we can see we have sim cockpit 2 engine actuators carb heat ratio. And since it's a float, we are going to need to throw our index in there. So we're going to have to do a little bracket, then enter 0, and then close bracket. They're like the square brackets, whatever the hell those are called. Value, so this is our no carb heat position. We have none applied. We're gonna hit this little add here. That's gonna lock in 0 as for the value of this keyframe. Then when we go to our next keyframe where it's fully we have carb heat on, you can see that it hasn't been set yet. It's not yellow. So we're gonna click here. We're gonna enter 1. Then we're going to click the add data ref keyframe. That's going to lock in 1 for our second keyframe. So that's the animation done. The only other thing you're going to need if you want a click spot is you're going to have your cockpit object. So if we bring up the cockpit object, I already have our manipulator made here. This is what the click spot is. We can click anywhere here in the simulator. It's gonna push and pull. You can see I have them for all the switches too. But we're gonna want to link, or we're gonna want to parent that to this empty as well, even though it's in a different collection. It's a different object, and we'll just hit parent. So now you can see that follows the empty as well. I already have this set up, but we'll walk through it again. For push pull, we're going to use drag axis picks. It's a manipulator. It's in the same object properties, but instead of adding a data ref, we're going to check manipulator. And when we check manipulator, we are brought up with a different menu. We're going to select drag axis picks v10.10. I don't know if that's still a thing in the latest X-Plane to Blender, but it's definitely, you will definitely have drag axis picks. When we do that, we can select whatever our cursor wants to be. So whatever we want, like whatever our cursor will turn into when we hover over this click spot is what we're going to have. So I just have it set as hand. You could set it to a button, but I just have it set as hand right now, or we could set any one of these. And then the thing with drag axis picks is that it actually just follows the data ref of whatever the empty's got. So it's just going to take the same data ref the empty has, throw it in here. So it's not going to throw it in there. We're going to have to enter that in manually. But we have it here, sim cockpit 2 engine actuators carb heat ratio, and the same index of 0. For most manipulators, we don't have, it's different. It's usually just commands. So we're going to use like actual manipulator commands, but for the dragging, for the push and pulls, it just uses the data ref because it's following the whole thing through. Probably a lot to to take in and try to understand. But so after that, we have this drag X. So the drag X is how fast your cursor controls the movement of the animation. I probably could have explained that better, but that's how my brain kind of thinks of it. So 200 is a pretty good value for this, for push pulls. Like I think I have 200 set for most of these. This is just drag axis actually. I don't know why I have that different. I'll worry about that later. But drag X is the only option we have for the drag axis picks. So we're going to set 200 for that. Your step, you want it to be 0.01. The step is what's going to control how like jagged your animation looks when you're pushing and pulling. Like instead of it being like this as you like push and pull it, that would be like a value of like 0.2 or something. We want it as narrow as we can, so 0.01 gives it the most room for it to look smooth. It's like a smooth animation. 0.01 for that. EXP, it's something to do with exponential curves. Just keep it at 1. And then as far as carb heat goes, carb heat is a little weird. Carb heat has 4 values. Actually, I think I needed to change my animation here. Yeah, I definitely needed to change my animation. So carb heat has 4 values. We're going to enter value 1 as 0 and value 2 as 4. That's just how the carb heat works for some odd reason. We don't want wheel delta at all. Just the data ref has 4 values, even though it only says it has 2. So in reality, I got to change where I had this before. It would be somewhere around here. Yeah, that's probably better because that's 1 value. Then it'll go 2, 3, 4, right? Anyway, that's it. We're good to go. Just make sure your cockpit, all your manipulators have a different material than your other stuff, and we're good to go. Now we can export both the instrument panel where our actual lever is and the cockpit object. We'll hit export, and I'll see you guys in the sim. Okay, so we're all loaded up in the sim now. We can come down here to our carb heat, and we can see that our cursor changes into a hand, and this is our click spot for the carb heat. So if we just click and drag it, you'll see that it works and the values are properly being set. We can drag it out here. You can see it works perfectly fine. Let's go into data ref tool just to make sure that the carb heat is working how it should. We can see that we have the index of 0. You can see that there's, if I drag this out more, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different options. You could set that index to either one of these 8 if you wanted to, but the first one is it's always going to start at 0. They all start at 0, and we chose 0 for this, so you can see we're at 0 here. Once we move our carb heat all the way in, it goes to 4. So that's how that works. And then of course there's like other switches and stuff that you can do later as commands. But that's a basic push-pull animation for X-Plane. So hope that helps you out. Maybe I'll make more of these videos, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, that's everything. So see you in the next one.